in 1966, we're introduced to a heist comedy film by William Wyler called How to Steal a Million. It stars Audrey Hepburn, Peter O'Toole, Eli Wallach, Hugh Griffith, and Charles Boyer. The film is set in France and was filmed entirely there, although the characters always speak English. The storyline is that Charles Bonnet, who is the latest in a long line of master forgers, loans one of his best works, which is a faux Cellini Venus, to a Paris museum, despite his daughter Nicole's objections to doing this. Later, Nicole surprises a tuxedo-clad burglar in her father's workshop. The problem is she can't call the police because her father's hobby might be discovered. So she ends up driving the man Simon Dermott back to his hotel room. Dermott is actually an inspector who is gathering evidence against her father. But his attraction to Nicole complicates the assignment. Nicole learns that the museum plans to conduct a test on the Venus for insurance purposes, which she knows will expose the statue as a fake. To save her father from jail, she asks Simon to steal it, unaware of his true identity. Simon is completely intrigued by this challenge, and he's now smitten by Miss Bonnet, and he agrees to the proposal. Walter Matthau was the first choice for the Eli Wallach part, but he was looking for $200,000, so they went with a less expensive George C. Scott. Scott had been on the set for a few weeks before shooting began. However, on his first day of shooting, he didn't turn back up after lunch. Director William Wyler made the decision to fire him. Wyler wouldn't put up with anything on a set. He was already finding it difficult to handle two heavy drinkers, that being Peter O'Toole and Hugh Griffith. And the prospect of a third one was just overwhelming to him. He didn't think he could handle it. On hearing of Scott's removal from the production, Audrey Hepburn became terribly upset. The director then cast Eli Wallach in the part, and he does a wonderful job in it. Quite a bit of time is spent in a closet where Nicole and Simon are hiding. At one point, you see a guard making his rounds, stopping by the closet, and he inserts a key into a round device that's hanging from his neck. This device is a watch clock. Specific keys are placed at various guard stations, so when the guard inserts his key into the watch clock, it records the time that he's reportedly at that station. This was a common practice that was used for years to document guards' travels through something that they're trying to secure. Peter O'Toole and Audrey Hepburn spent a lot of time really close up, and there were a lot of rumors about them having an affair during the filming. But those rumors are totally false. But they did become really close friends. The director first considered making this film as a follow-up to Roman Holiday in 1953. In that film, Gregory Peck would have played the male lead opposite Audrey Hepburn. At that time, he had a darker mood in mind for the film. During one of the night shoots, the director asked Peter O'Toole to take Audrey Hepburn, who was dressed only in a thin nightgown and a jacket, to his trailer so that she could get warmed up. O'Toole, being a heavy drinker, gave her some brandy, and by the time that she was wanted by the crew, Hepburn, who was less used to alcohol than O'Toole, was completely snockered. She knocked over studio lights when she had to drive a car in the scene. At the time when O'Toole breaks into the house, Miss Hepburn is laying in bed reading, and the book she's reading is an Alfred Hitchcock book. In her Oscar-winning performance as the princess in Roman Holiday, she's also laying in bed reading a book about Alfred Hitchcock. This seems to be a common theme to put her to sleep at night. When Peter O'Toole first sets off the museum alarm, he says, Ring Out, Wild Bells. This is the title of a poem by Alfred Lloyd Tennyson, published in 1850. It was an elegy to his sister's fiancé, Arthur Henry Hallam, who died at age 22. The movie was originally known as Venus Rising. That was its pre-production title. This comes from a 1962 story by George Bradshaw. And in that original short story, the statue is actually life-size. That would make stealing it almost impossible. Nicole's car is basically an upmarket Fiat Sport 500, and McDermott's car is an E-Type Jaguar. At about an hour into the film, Peter O'Toole does an impression of Humphrey Bogart to Audrey Hepburn. Bogart and Hepburn previously starred as lovers in the movie Sabrina in 1954. And a whole bunch of these other characters have worked together quite a few times. Audrey Hepburn had worked with Jock Moran. They appeared together in Charade in 1963. Peter O'Toole and Eli Wallach worked together in Lord Jim from 1965. And Peter O'Toole and Hugh Griffith previously worked together in The Day They Robbed the Bank of England from 1960. And speaking of Jock Moran, he plays a wonderful head guard in this film, whose character bears a real resemblance to the inspector from the Pink Panther. After Nicole dresses up as a cleaning lady, Simon Dermott says to her, "That does it. For one thing, it gives Givenchy a night off." Givenchy was Audrey Hepburn's costume designer for the film. The outfit that she wears as she motors through Paris was one that shows the height of the 1960s space age fashion right down to her sunglasses. Following the robbery, Leland seeks to acquire the Venus by any means. Leland is the character that's played by Eli Wallach. As I mentioned earlier, he does a great job in this role. Simon decides to sell it to him on the condition that he never display it to anyone and that he never contact the Bonet family again. Simon secretly adds Nicole's engagement ring into the package. Nicole and Simon meet to celebrate their success, and Simon tells her that the Cellini Venus was his first heist too, and this reveals his true occupation of exposing forgeries. He then declares his love for Nicole, and then meets her father and assures him that the statue will be safely out of the country. Her father is so relieved that he is only momentarily disappointed when Simon tells him that the purchase price was $0. And because the statuette was never authenticated, there was no insurance money as well. Simon tells her father that one of them must retire, and her father agrees to give up forgery. Now, her father, Charles, is played by Hugh Griffith, who began his film career in British films during the late 1940s. And by the 1950s, he was working a lot in Hollywood, but not so much as his career started being damaged by his alcohol abuse. During this production, they had such trouble with his drinking and his behavior that they ended up having to fire him. At one point, he got so drunk, he was walking around the halls of the hotel that the cast was staying in, completely nude, with a "Do Not Disturb" sign hanging over his privates. He had altered the sign to read "Do Disturb." This was the final straw. William Wyler just couldn't deal with it anymore. He had to let him go. Luckily, they were able to edit around and have enough already filmed scenes to make the movie work. The film didn't do very well at the box office. It actually lost money. Take a look at this movie, though. It's a really fun watch. I think you might enjoy it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.